I'm talking with our fellow classmate, class of 66, Sheila Grinell, author of two books, The Appetite and The Contract. Um, I noticed that one deals with a Indian guru and her two doubting parents, Maggie and Paul. And the contract deals with basically the Saudi experience. And what inspired you to write these books? Was there anything in your Harvard experience that, or when did you know that you'd be a writer? I know that you had another career for 40 years, but
Yeah, I had another career first. So yeah, I think my Harvard experience contributed directly, though I wasn't aware of it at the time, because I went to Bronx High School of Science and I had a lot of math. And I thought I was going to be a mathematician. And I got to school, and because I had all that math, I was put in fancy physics 13, which was really not understandable. So I demoted myself to the ordinary physics, and that was okay. And for mechanics was okay, and light and optics was okay. And I got to electricity and magnetism. And there were all these guys in the class who knew what they were talking about. And I had never played around with that stuff. And I just couldn't, it just didn't make sense to me. So I said, well, I can't do physics, therefore I can't do mathematics, therefore I should go home. And my boyfriend at the time said, no, don't go home. What do you like? And I said, well, I really like my freshman English composition class. I like Gen Ed.
Gen Ed, sure.
And he said, so major in English. So I did. And it was May of senior year, and I'm walking across the quad, and I realized that what I liked about math was the same as what I liked about poetry. They both define a little world, and you can draw a little box, and that's the world. And when you get comfortable, you can move around and manipulate inside that world. And you get really comfortable, you know how to jump out. And I realized that my what I had learned was it didn't matter what I majored in, concentrated in, as we said.
Right.
It didn't matter because I'd learned how to learn, and that was really fun. So then, with the science side, I built science museums for 40 years.
Know that.
San Francisco, New York. I consulted around the world. And then I moved to Arizona to be the founding CEO of the Arizona Science Center, which turned out to be my final one. Then I realized I was done. I like startups. I like the blank page. And the field was mature now. There really wasn't that much room for startup. So I began to consult, because that's what I knew, and looked around for something else. And then what happened was quite by accident. My mother had a stroke and she lost her mind. And it's like somebody stabbed me in the belly. I had to write her story. So I wrote my mom's story. I got some help from a creative writing center here at Arizona State University. And then I realized that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to write. So in my 60s, I switched paths and I began to write novels. And there's two down, two mentioned. Thank you very much, Fred. And I'm working on the third. And the third is actually set here in Arizona. I've lived here almost 30 years now. I'm ready to tackle it in fiction. But this book, The Contract actually set in the museum world. It's going to be only one of my books that's going to be set there. Because I did this consultant work in Saudi Arabia. And it's so different. You can't make it up. You have to have, it's so strange. And I realized, we live in such fraught times, and you think about what can people tolerate, what can people not tolerate. And I realized I had this extreme. So I realized if I was going to use Saudi Arabia, I'd have to use the museum context, because that's the only one I really knew. So I created this couple. They're a couple of museum designers, man and wife, and they live in Oakland, California. And they get challenged to compete for a job in Saudi Arabia. Oakland, California, and Saudi Arabia. Now that's a spectrum that was bound to produce a bunch of creative tension.
That's spanning the world.
Yeah, good for drama. My readers tend to be more female than male. They tend to be over 45, and many of them are over 55. And they live in places where I have connections. A lot of them live here in Arizona. A whole bunch live in New York, a whole bunch live in Seattle, the places where my friends have helped spread the word. It's very hard to spread the word in these, my publisher communicates to retailers. They have a sales force as part of within Ingram Publishing Services, and they communicate to retailers. And then the publicist communicates to media. And who communicates to readers individually? The author.
Right.
So I spend a lot of time, so naturally, my readers tend to be where I have talked to people directly. We live in such fraught times. I've been thinking about tolerance and how people were having so much trouble doing it. And I was in New York and I was with a friend, a lovely woman, kind, generous person, a little, around our age. And she was talking to her sister with just utter contempt. I was shocked. How come she hasn't learned to deal with her sister by now? What makes us develop tolerance and what stops it? And then I realized I could use my experience in Saudi Arabia as one extreme. Well, that's how that one came about. So I haven't deliberately wanted to write with international themes or flavors, but those experiences kind of gave me a whole field of life that I could include in my stories. My very absolute favorite passage, which I think is just, I don't know where I got it from, but it's genius. I can't read that to you because it's a spoiler. And I hope that you and many of other classmates read the book. And I'm on a regular Zoom with other women who were freshmen in Cabot Hall. There's about 20 of us. Yeah. Isn't that something? There's about 20 of us who Zoomed a couple of fairly regularly during the pandemic. And they did read the contract and we had a good talk about it. But I hope other classmates haven't read it, and I'm not going to spoil it for you.